Welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday YouTube channel. I am your host, Ryan Hartley. This channel is for heart-centered leaders just like you. I hope our time spent together helps you leave a heartprint where those around you are left better than yesterday. These interview sessions are sponsored by our great friends at Elevate Online Marketing. On episode 187, I'm joined by Bethan Laker, business owner, heart-centered leader, and legend of the Always Better Than Yesterday community. Bethan has been with us since the very start. Our community absolutely love Bethan, and true to her nature, we have a really authentic conversation. We talk about the highs and lows of personal development, of business development, and overcoming personal grief. It is a really powerful conversation, one that I hope meets you where you are today and gives you hope for a better tomorrow. Here we go, episode 187 with our great friend, legend, Bethan Laker. Bethan Laker, welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so good. I know that our community are very, very excited to have you on the podcast, but more importantly, for me to ask all of their curious questions.
And there's plenty of those.
There is plenty. 11 in total I have written down in front of me. I have no questions of my own. I have 11 of theirs, and I can't promise them that I will ask all of them, because I will do my best to create a great conversation for our listeners. But let us know a little bit about Bethan. Tell us a little bit about early days, Bethan.
I mean, how far do you want me to go back? Like early days, I guess as a child. So I was a military brat, grew up with both parents in the forces, so experienced, I guess, military life for 14 years of my childhood. Went into Civvy Street then, I guess, as you would call it, and figured out how to navigate the world in normal life, which is actually very different to military life. And then, yeah, I guess into my early adult years and the joys of life and what life throws at you, and yeah, the journey, I guess, that then takes you on through your 20s. So yeah, it's been a roller coaster.
I think it's obvious kind of the things that you don't get from being in military. You know, you don't get the firm roots because you're moving from town to town and country to country maybe. But I guess what does it give you?
Yeah, I mean, I always think that my upbringing has just brought me utter resilience. You know, life is very different when you're in that world, and you don't have like a close-knit circle of friends that you've spent your entire life growing up with. So yeah, you have a new circle of friends every 2 to 3 years. So you're forever making friendships and connections and then losing them again. So, you know, compare that to the normal upbringing of a child in Civilian Street. It's very much, it's the complete opposite. You know, I speak to friends and they've got friends that they went to nursery with. They've got friends that they, you know, their mums are on the same maternity ward, and they have literally grown up together. But yeah, I think life as a military child, you develop a huge amount of resilience. I think you maybe see things in a very different way in terms of the world and you know what life can look like, and the pressures that are put on certain job roles. You know, I was fortunate my dad wasn't posted away all too much. But you know, he has been away. He went to the Falklands quite a few times, and you know, we were a family of 3 when that was the case. And yeah, it's just there's so much to it that's very, very different. But yeah, resilience would be my one main word. Yeah,
so you and I first would have encountered each other through your brother, obviously friends of your brother John, who was in my school year. And you know, I think from, you know, there's certain points in our life where we've been brought back together for different reasons. But in our early days, little did we know, we were both in the swimming industry. I was a lifeguard over in a different town called Westbury, and I think you were over in Trowbridge. And one of the questions here is that did you get into swimming, the industry, on purpose or by accident?
By accident. Yeah, I was offered the opportunity to do my lifeguard qualification, and just took it, which obviously led into work. And then from there, I believe I've been very fortunate with my career. I've never paid for a qualification, which is unheard of. I did my lifeguard qualification, then I went on to do a swim teacher's qualification, then I progressed into management, and I was in management roles very early on in my 20s, so I was probably one of the youngest managers in that region, and I was also, well, actually, to be fair, I'm still one of the youngest managers that I would have known of in the industry as well. So
managing swimming pools, like the operations, and
so I fell into it. And they do say once you kind of get into leisure, you can't get out of it. And I went to uni, and it's a good qualification, or they are good qualifications to have, because you can take them wherever you go. So I went down to uni and obviously found work down there. I came home, and then I went straight back into a full-time job role. And then, I just kind of progressed from there. But no, I didn't ever plan on being in swimming. I wasn't ever a competitive swimmer, and I never knew that I had this passion for water other than having experienced sailing, windsurfing, scuba diving, aquatic sports as a child. So
anyone that's been around you, anyone that's spoken to you or experienced you speak about the industry, there is a whole lot of heart and of passion. We'll probably talk a little bit about, how you've been influencing an industry from a different country, during COVID. But I guess Jen says, was it an intentional or accidental love affair? And I guess, did you learn to love it? Like, what is the essence of the swimming industry that you have fallen for?
I think there's probably two parts to it. The initial part, the passion, I think, came from a realization that swimming was such an important life skill. Working as a lifeguard, I did many rescues. As that 16, 18-year-old lifeguard still on the pool deck. I had also witnessed a child who had been in a drowning situation in terms of my team doing CPR and the full works. So I think it kind of developed from there, in the fact that it is preventable. And I have a firm belief that everybody should have an opportunity to learn to swim because of that. But I think the other aspect of my passion comes from my experience within the industry around just, I guess there's a lack of understanding of the business aspect of it. And for me, business is a byproduct of allowing every child an opportunity to learn to swim. So when you can put the two together and know that actually a viable business then creates a sustainable future, for me, that's just a complete cycle. And then add in the other aspects that we're now doing with our business around education. It's the sustainability of the whole piece, but it's the impact and the ripple effect that then obviously goes on to have. So it started off with just one small thing, and then it's kind of just naturally developed as I've gone through different job roles.
What gave you the courage to leave one job in the UK and take one up in Ireland?
Just because I could.
Right.
I guess, I've always been, I was very much brought up, both myself and my brother, brought up on the fact that if you don't try it, you won't ever know. And I kind of just thought, you know what, I'm not that I was done in the industry here in England, but actually, maybe there's impact that I can have elsewhere, and there's much greater sort of a much greater need somewhere else for me. I guess I kind of knew the person that was asking me to take on the job, and we got on, and I thought, yeah, why not? Like, Ireland's supposed to be a lovely place, and let's go. So that's what I did. Didn't really think about it.
How many days before the pandemic?
I was in the country for like a maximum of 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So I went to relocate my life.
Yeah.
Took my car, took everything, and then the pandemic hit. So
yeah, like so we had weekly calls together with our group, and you were flat out, heart and soul, working to keep this industry, which for all intents and purposes had been shut down. Like, it's very difficult to put into a conversation what you did during those 2 years. But how would you summarize that time looking back on it?
Painful, impactful,
Yeah.
and probably the best 2 years of my career.
Yeah. Why?
Like I was in a position where, I was doing things that I never ever thought I would need to do. So I was lobbying government, for example, and, trying to evidence that swimming pools are safe spaces, and all whilst my heart was actually aching for this industry, because the industry is quite volatile. It's very unstable anyway. In terms of profits that are made, and it's really easy for a pool to be shut. So knowing that you're under this period of time where there is no income, and the impact that that's going to have on the industry could be huge.
Yeah.
So yeah, huge amounts of different emotions, pain and suffering, I guess the empathy I had for the actual industry itself.
Yep.
My own internal turmoil because of the differing values and beliefs. My own work ethic was probably my worst enemy. I'd work all hours there were in a day. I'd sit at my laptop from 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'd work right the way through until 11, 12 at night. But and it was never done.
Yeah.
So it was constant. It never really seemed to let up. But yeah, it was impactful, and like I said, probably the most important 2 years of my career.
Yeah. Hey, my friends, thank you for listening to the interview sessions here on YouTube. Did you know that back in 2018, this was the original format for our interview sessions? It wasn't until after a couple of months when someone said, I'd love to listen to these conversations on my commute, did it become a podcast. And since then, we have been listened to by people in over 130 countries around the world. If you are enjoying this podcast, if you're enjoying this interview, I'd be really grateful if you'd head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. And once you've done that, be sure to take a screenshot, tag us in at Always Better Than Yesterday UK, and I will send you a 20% discount to our merchandise store as a thank you from me to you. Here we go. Back to the interview session. Yeah. 100%, and we definitely had conversations about take some time for Bethan, and because those long days are, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because you talk about feeling purposeful, and it's just that struggle that it's never done. There's always more to do, but what I found really interesting is that from a leadership perspective, I think trying to develop our leadership in the middle of a crisis is too late. I think anybody that didn't invest in their own leadership up until the point of that pandemic got found out, because life squeezes, right? And I guess what's on the inside is going to come out. And, you and I had been talking about leadership for a few years. And, I think you had a clear sense of who Bethan Laker is, who Bethan Laker wants to be in the workplace, in life, and values. And do you feel that having that sense of identity and the perspective of your values helped you during that time?
Yeah, I think so. And I think there was this inner knowing that I just needed to show up. We talk about showing up all the time. And even when I felt as if I really, 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 really didn't want to, I just knew I had to. And I think part of it was driven by my determination / stubbornness. But also the industry didn't have anybody. And I guess from a values perspective, it just felt as if that was the thing that I had to do, even if I had no answers, which was probably the hardest days to show up. We would do Facebook Lives, and quite often we would be giving them no information whatsoever, or we'd be just turning up and telling them bad news. But throughout that process, it just reaffirmed to me that actually I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I turn up, and actually there were days that I was vulnerable. I was nearly broken. I was very, very close to tears, if not in tears. And I just kind of went with it, really, and developed some really great relationships by doing that.
Yeah, and from what I understand, the culture hasn't always been as supportive and enabling of that and of that type of leadership. So how do you wrestle with that? How do you wrestle with this desire to be authentic with a culture that maybe isn't used to that?
I guess for me, there's this knowing that I knew the industry. I knew what the industry needed, and I also knew that the organization that I was working for didn't really quite fully understand what that meant and what it would mean to the people actually in the industry as well. So I think from that place, I just kind of knew that I had to keep going with it. But I don't know, it's a hard one, because it's a constant battle, and you feel as if you're banging a head against a brick wall all the time. And for me, it wasn't about the people in the organization, it was about the people outside the organization. And the feedback that I was getting was actually that what we were doing was impactful to them, and that's what mattered to me, because I knew that they were the people that were on the receiving end of it. And actually, culturally, if it didn't sit within the organization, like for me, I thought that would change, and that is naivety on my part. And maybe the fact that I like to see
optimism.
Yeah, maybe the fact that I like to be optimistic and maybe see the best in things. But it didn't change. It hasn't changed. And we've now moved forwards from that. But it's, again, it pains me that it doesn't change, and it pains me that there isn't that understanding.
So I think it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think, when we talk about ripple effect, heartprint, I think we talk about the impact that we leave on people. And I think business is people to people. And I know that you now have gone into a personal venture, and what is that personal venture that you're taking, post job, shall we say?
I guess we just know. I say we obviously have a business partner, Joni Harding. Shout out to Joni Harding. For me, I've always known that there's a solution to the challenge that the industry faces, or the challenges that the industry faces, and I just thought, you know what, if nothing's being done about it, why don't I just go and do something about it? So that's what I did. My time was done. And there's only so long you can fight against a culture that probably won't change, or will only change if there's, key changes within that environment. I took the jump, and I thought, I'm going to do it. What's the worst that can happen? We now have, Joni, so I went in October, and Joni then joined me in April. So we have two businesses. We have one in the UK and one in Ireland. And we are a solution-based business. So we look to solve the challenges that the industry faces through the solutions that we know work in the industry. Like, it's not rocket science what we do, but we know it's impactful, and it's a game changer.
And what's your company called?
The Leisure Experts.
And who are the Leisure Experts?
Who are the Leisure Experts? What, myself and Joni?
Yeah.
That seemed like a trick question, Ryan.
No trick questions here. Tell me about what it's like to work with Joni. And you talked about her being part of the reason you went to Ireland. Like, what is it to have a teammate and to have someone to go into business with? Because that's a whole new thing, right? It's all well and good to be colleagues, but it's a bit different when you decide to go into business with someone.
Yeah, and the amount of people that kind of warned us of that as well, just be really careful. Going into business with somebody isn't, like, it is what it's what you make it. But ultimately, both myself and Joni share a passion for the industry. We both share a passion for the experience that people have within water. We bounce off each other really, really well. We're very similar in some aspects and complete opposites in others. Joni has a background in education, and a real passion for training and developing people. And then I obviously have my background in the actual facility side and more of the business piece. So put the two together and actually we have something very special. I've worked with many people across the industry who share that same passion, share very similar values, but the two of us together, we almost don't really need to ask each other what we think, because we always seem to be on the same page, or there's always going to be a slightly different angle to it, because obviously we come from different backgrounds, but the concept is normally the same, and the outcome tends to also be the same thought process as well. So it's really, really cool when you can work with someone like that, because if I'm having a bad day and Joni's buzzing her off, then it lifts you, and you're not on your own. First few months for me was not lonely, because obviously I still have people that I talk to, but when you can speak to someone on a daily basis and throw ideas around and numbers and look at your future, it's very exciting.
And I know that you have a heart and an intention to do business slightly differently. And I think sometimes that's driven by pain and frustration of how it is. And then when you realize the freedom you have to create how you want it to be, for anyone that experiences your business or works within your business, like what sort of culture are you trying to set?
We're very much people first culture. Like I said earlier, business is a byproduct of everything that you do. If we can get the people piece right, everything else follows. For us, it's actually being flexible. It's being able to understand people's needs and knowing that it's not a one size fits all approach. It's being able to actually really understand where a business is at and where they want to be, and then fill in the gaps, whatever that might be. We're working with a number of different people at the minute, and every single one is completely different. And every single process that we follow with them is slightly different. It isn't just, well, here's a qualification and here's a program that you follow and this is the way that you need to do it. It's actually, these are your options. How does that best work for you and your business and your people? So people first is very much our focus right now.
But that's service, heart-centered service, because I think that might make your life a little bit different, because difficult or harder, shall we say, than implementing, that one size fits all off the shelf type solution. But it's the essence of B2B, it's the essence of service, it's the essence of meeting needs rather than,
And we're very much like, we would much prefer to have short-term pain and not take on people just for people's sake. Take the time to have the right people, to choose the right people, to find the right people. But I also think, we know that in the longer term, we will be encouraging other businesses to do the same. Whereas the industry right now is just desperate. But they don't have to be desperate if they can look at it from a slightly different perspective.
What you talked a little bit about the future, what gives you hope for the future of this business and this industry?
What gives us hope? Just a knowing that they need it, and that actually it can be it can be really impactful. It's we spoke yesterday and we threw the words around. We used the word weeks and weeks and weeks ago when we put in some sort of marketing pieces together, like revolutionizing. So we want to revolutionize the industry, like in the way that we do things. And it's very much of, well, we've always done it that way, but we want to drive it forwards. And the future for us is well, I guess the future is the future, isn't it? You don't really know what's got in store, but looking forwards, I think it's exciting, because we just know that the industry needs something different.
One of the things that has always come through your social, through your leadership, is this desire to be authenticity. What does authenticity mean to you?
Authenticity means to me inner peace. I think I'll probably start with that one. Because I've spent long enough I spent far too many years of my life in a place where there was not inner peace.
Tell us about
that. Yeah, like I had very severe depression from 2012 to 2015, relapsed again in 2017, and obviously then started working with you. And only when I really could step into my authentic self and being like, actually, do you know what? This is who I am, and not taking the crap from other people just because they thought I should live my life in a different way.
Yeah.
That's when everything for me started to fall into place. Everything flows better when you're being authentic. You end up in the right situations with the right people. Like authenticity is freedom. So yeah, like I feel very passionately about people not living authentically, like, and you see it all the time on social media, like that's just a load of rubbish. Like what you just posted is not true. It's not actually who you are. Now that's not to say that there isn't a belief or like a thought process that's in there, but there's still some work to do before that point. But yeah,
some alignment.
I just think if we can all be more authentic, we would all be in a much happier place.
Yeah, my take on authenticity is like when inner world and outer world are aligned. It's like when what we say and what we do is an actual representation of what we think and what we believe.
It's subconscious. You don't have to think about what you do. You don't have to think about how you react. You don't have to think about what you post. Like it just happens. It just comes. And yeah, that's authenticity.
Talk about the word heartprint, and I know that a particular place in the world has left a heartprint on you. What is Japan's heartprint?
Japan's heartprint on me was just ultimate inner peace. So there's a phrase or a word that they use in Japan, which is Mushin, Mushin, I think it is. And it's a state of no mind. And I found that so many times when I was in Japan, like I spent years traveling trying to figure out what I was supposed to be looking for and finding. You know, people say, oh, you find yourself on your travels. And I was like, what am I looking for? And actually before then I felt as if I was always running away from things.
Sure.
But yeah, I could sit in Japan and I was just so still. There was no thought process. There was just nothing. It was just me with myself. And if you've never experienced that, then, you know, I would definitely recommend trying to find that in something, but hopefully you don't have to travel all the way to Japan to find it. But it's it's an amazing place to be.
The irony is you can go to a place and you find something that's inside already, isn't it? And I think, you know, that's really how long were you there?
3 weeks. Like, you know, everything about the culture is just about a slower way of life. It's more sociable, it's respectful, I guess it's all about sort of self-worth, self-love. You know, they have things in their daily routines that they do day in, day out, just out. It's almost ritual.
Yeah.
I just think it's just an incredible culture.
Which is just a complete juxtaposition from Bethan Laker, the adrenaline junkie.
100%. I have a yin and I have a yang.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And you also have an alter ego, the blonde biker. Talk to us about this alter ego.
Yeah, so I kind of went through, I guess, as this authentic Bethan started to emerge, I just knew that I'd always had this dream of riding a motorbike. And I don't know, again, if it's just one of these social norms that was something that I just had to squash, but there's thousands and thousands of women who ride motorbikes, but I just didn't know any. And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do my motorbike license. Didn't tell my parents, just went and did it. And yeah, the Blonde Biker 27 was born. I wanted to document, I guess, that journey, document what it meant to me and my own mental health as well. You know, motorbiking and mental health come hand in hand. So many bikers will talk about mental health and what biking does for that. not to mention obviously the connections, the friendships, and everything else that comes from it. So yeah, it's a part of my life that's been there for 5 years now, and love it.
You talked about thousands and thousands of women bikers, but there was one that really touched your heart. Can we talk about Steph?
Yes. I can try.
We can try. Talk to us about that friendship.
The one and only Steph.Robbo. So it was a bit of a strange one, actually. So Steph and I hadn't met, but Steph followed me on Instagram in Bristol. So not too far away. We would always pass each other when we were out riding. And one day I just, like, she was stopped at a petrol station on a roundabout. So I rode past her and she was like jumping up and down. We both rode the same bike. Mine was red and hers was white. And yeah, jumping up and down. And so I thought, right, I'm going to go round the roundabout and actually stop. I've got a perfect opportunity here. Normally it was like riding past each other. So yeah, stopped, had a chat, agreed to meet up and go for a ride. And then like the rest is history. We just became the bestest of friends. And just literally just clicked as if we'd known each other forever. So yeah, the most special connection.
Then what happened?
And then what happened? Oh God, Steph was involved in a motorbike accident on the 15th of April this year, and she lost her life.
Yeah, tragic, right? Tragic.
Yeah.
I joined you at her funeral, and I've never seen anything like it. I've never experienced. I get it. Like, I think I get it from the outside, seeing that community come together, seeing the way that you like pulled together that video for her, and to really kind of celebrate her life. Like, honestly, it was an overwhelming experience. And you know, I had such admiration for you on that day, you know, being there. And I know that you know, you're a strong leader anyway. I know that about you, but just seeing the way that you came together for that community, and yeah, it was really, really tragic circumstances, but a beautiful celebration of a beautiful human being.
Yeah, and it's one of those, it's a really, really weird thing to say, but most bikers will say, if there's one way that I'm going to go, like,
yeah,
you know, I want it to be that way, because we just love it so much. And I think unless you ride, unless you've ever experienced what it's like I think it's really hard to understand what that means.
Yeah.
And yeah, Steph would always say, if there's one way I'm going to go on the bike. And you know, she was on her favorite road, the weather was the sun was shining. But I guess it couldn't, like I said to you before, it couldn't have been any more perfect, really, in terms of, you know, I guess the day itself. But yeah, you know, from a community perspective, it's one thing that I really, really hope that those closest to me see and understand now, because there's always this piece, I think, around biking. You know, bikers have a reputation of probably just being troublemakers, being noisy. And actually it's a bunch of people who will be the most welcoming people you've ever met. They are the people in my life who I know, if anything ever happened, like I'd pick up the phone and they'd drop everything and they would come. Like they are those sorts of people, and regardless of where they live, if they're 8 hours away, if they're half an hour away, they would drop everything and come. And it is very much a really, really special community. And you know, for me, I hope that those closest to me understand why I would choose to go back to biking after it has taken my best friend from me. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one.
So powerful. And you know, just the rituals, I guess, maybe, you know, it was just the overriding sounds and the smell, and even just the way with the synchronizing of the revving, which is almost like salute and honor. And yeah, like, you know, and I sat there with Joni, and you know, not feeling helpless in some way, but we just want to be there for you and help you in some way. And I think a great deal of comfort for us was to be able to see the hundreds of bikers that had surrounded and wrapped around you and that community. And that video that you pulled together, man, I've never seen anything like it. What an expression of a wonderful human.
Yeah, I keep having people say to me, and actually the guys from the funeral home, the celebrant, they all said the same. They all said, they do these day in, day out, and they've never experienced a video that really, like, they felt Steph was in the room. They just felt her presence, and they really understood her as a person. And that was all I wanted. Like, I just wanted to bring her back to life, and for people to hear her, to hear her laugh, to see her smile. So yeah. Yeah.
Words will never do it justice, but do you think you could describe Steph's heartprint?
Oh God. How would I describe Steph's heartprint? Like, I won't describe her heartprint. I'll probably describe her as a person, which is ultimately her heartprint. So she is a sort of person, or she was the sort of person that would put everybody before herself. She would carry the weight of the world. She would do everything for everybody before she even did anything for herself. She would be, she was the queen of connection. She was forever bringing people together. She was always looking for ways that she could support people. She was always looking at how she could just make somebody smile. Always checking in on people. I don't know how that girl had so many hours in her day. Like, she had a very busy career, and even that wasn't enough to stop her. She was always speaking to different people in different places, and that showed itself at the funeral. People traveled for hours to come. They'd never met her in person, but they'd spoken to her through social media, and I think that is probably the truest reflection of Steph and the impact that she had on people. But yeah, she was just an all-round awesome person, like absolute numpty at times, but yeah, just wanted to make people laugh all the time, smile. Yeah.
And coming back to you as a human being, like, how do you continue to journey and overcome that sense of grief and loss?
I think, how do I continue to journey? I mean, grief's a funny thing, right? It's one of those things. And, I've always heard people talk about the 5 stages of grief. And, I've lost family before, but they've all been through old age. And yeah, I guess you do go through the 5 phases of grief, but I haven't gone through that with Steph. I know that a couple of people closest to me think that I'm not processing that grief. But actually, I think it's the complete opposite. I think I found so much acceptance and peace in what happened, how it happened, the way that it happened, kind of times leading up to it, the things that I've experienced after it. So grief is just this word, I think, that we put on it. And I don't know, maybe if I hadn't journeyed in the last 5 years to understand myself and my own thoughts and my own feelings, maybe I wouldn't have dealt with it in the way that I have. But it doesn't make it easier.
No,
it doesn't. Like, I have bad days, I have good days, but I don't know. I just have this peace with it, which I think just really, really helps that you move forward, whatever moving forward looks like.
Yeah, and I think, Sadhguru will say that suffering is when we try and fight reality. The antidote to that suffering is acceptance. And so exactly what you've just said is the byproduct of that is a peace and an acceptance, not as if to say you wish it wasn't different, but accepting that it can't be.
Yeah, and before Steph's accident, if you'd asked me if I was spiritual in any way, I grew up going to church with my mum, and my gran passed away, and for me it all changed, and I couldn't really understand why. And then obviously Steph's accident happened, and I don't know, there's just this part of me that's just completely shifted. And it's, I don't, I would love to say that Steph should still be here, but actually there's just this huge part of me that knows that she was only here for that period of time for a reason. And I know that some people might find that quite strange to hear, and almost that I'm kind of dismissing what's happened, but like that is my truth. Like I do genuinely believe that she was here for a reason, and that's the way that it's played out. So
and that's it, and nobody can debate that, because never in this lifetime will we know.
No,
never in this life. So it's about what brings us peace and acceptance and being able to move forward. And I'm really touched by what you're saying, because I think it's very easy to embrace a more spiritual, trusting, surrendering nature to the world and the universe and the way that it works, to then not completely shut down when something tragic happens, as if to say, no, can't embrace that, can't believe in any of that nonsense, because why would this happen? And yet you've leaned in. And I guess there have been so many kind of messages and blessings that you've had along the way, that so many that we could do a whole episode on all of the no such thing as coincidences. Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about any of those?
I mean, there's loads, but I guess the very, very first one being the actual day that it happened. So I was supposed to ride with Steph that day. Go everywhere together, and I'd had a busy week of work, and I just wasn't quite feeling it, and I don't know, I just knew that it wasn't my day to ride. Messaged her, just said, look, Steph, like not coming today, not dragging my backside out of bed, have a great day. And later that day we went down the road and went into an art gallery, and there was this picture in this art gallery which was a picture that myself and Steph saw in a different art gallery. And she was like, oh my God, I love that picture. That would look amazing on my new kitchen wall. So she was just about to move house. And I was like, right, that's it. I'm having that picture. It's a moving in present, and that's going to go up on a kitchen wall. So I was stood in this art gallery with this picture in my hand, waiting to buy it. And my next door neighbor from my parents rang me. I declined because I was in this art gallery chatting. She rang me again. I declined. She rang me again. I thought, you know what, something's wrong. I need to ring her back. So I put this picture down, went outside and spoke to her. And she's like, you're not out on the bike today, are you? And I said, no, why? And she's like, oh, there's been an accident just down the road. It's a girl on a red motorbike, late 20s. I mean, I'm not in my late 20s, but and I was like, no, it's not me. It's not me. Like, and just left it at that. Anyway, I left the picture then. We went and got ice cream and carried on for the day. And later that evening, I obviously then had the phone call about Steph. And I looked back, and the time that I was stood in that art gallery with that picture in my hand with Rosie ringing me was all around the same sort of time as Steph's accident. The Sunday, so Steph's accident was on Friday. It was Good Friday. Sweet peas were Steph's favourite flowers. Sweet peas are traditionally planted on Good Friday. That's another little coincidence, as you want to call it. And then on the Sunday, I got up, and some people believe in this stuff and some people don't, but I've definitely learned over the last 4 months that I can't not believe in it because of this. I got up Sunday morning, went to go to the bathroom, went to get back into bed, and I just felt this thing in my chest, and it was like something had physically left me, and I can't even explain what the feeling was, but something had come out of my chest and it had gone. Well, anyway, we have a mutual friend who's a medium, and I spoke to her, and she'd actually done a reading for Steph in lockdown and had communicated with her big nana. And this medium had said to me, what time was that? Because I wanted to talk to someone who was in that world, who maybe might be able to give me some clarification of what I'd felt, and the fact that I wasn't losing my mind. And I talked to her about what time it was. I talked to her about what I felt, and she said, Bethan, the same time there or thereabouts on that Sunday morning that you had that, I had communication from Big Nana to say that Steph had made it. to her. So yeah, that for me, I was like, oh my God, like there's, this has happened. And then I was feeling things in certain places, and, we'd done a lot of kind of research, I guess, into chakras, and we spent the weekend for Steph's birthday in Glastonbury, which was a massive shift for her. And it felt to me as if Steph was communicating to me through my chakras. So I would feel things in my throat, and I knew that something had to be said to somebody, and I didn't necessarily know who it was, but then at the right time, with the right person in front of me, the feeling would come back. And then after I'd had a conversation, the feeling would then go. So it's, I experienced that on a number of different occasions, and I get it, still get it in certain, more so in my stomach and my chest. I've had music synchronicities, I've had number synchronicities, like I have had every single form of dreams. That's another one. Like I had weeks and weeks and weeks of dreams with Steph. Couldn't tell you what conversation was. It was really, really conversational, but I could tell you where we were sat, but I couldn't tell you what was said. So yeah, I've had all sorts of wonderful experiences.
Yeah, I did, that we were having conversations almost every week with a new one every week, and yeah, we could literally talk about all of them. And I think this is the thing. It's such a topic that people will fail to get their head and their heart around unless it's experienced, and that's it. So it can't be debated, it can't be challenged, because it's experiential.
Yeah, and things have happened since, both in terms of business, things have happened with Joni, things have happened with other people that we know of, like in terms of their own job roles, and them moving forwards as themselves, and maybe achieving something that they had conversations with Steph about. And it's almost a bit like, come on, Steph, like what are you doing here? Like it's lovely to hear that it's not just me that's experiencing it. Like it is very much like a wider spread piece. So she's working at magic somewhere, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, love that. Should we do a quick fire question round with some of these questions that your good friends have added in? So your dear husband to be, he wants to know many things, but I will choose this one, which is, what gives you fulfillment?
What gives me fulfillment? It's a really good question, actually, because I couldn't actually tell you. I think, like, I know that I enjoy, what makes me happy is when I'm making a difference. Do I ever feel fulfilled? No. And this, I think, comes back to the conversations that we've had previously about expectation and actually enjoying the journey to that point. So yeah, I need to learn to enjoy the journey more so than the final destination. Like if I have a goal in mind, when I get there, it's almost a bit like, oh wow, how does that now feel? I'm just a bit indifferent. So yeah, that's a hard one for me to answer, because I don't think I ever feel fully fulfilled. But then I think, again, that's just my own, like, I'm always chasing something better. I'm always chasing the next thing.
Cool. Real talk. Deb wants to know your 3 components when it comes to creating a safe space for those closest to you or in business relationship building.
Zero judgment. That's a lesson that I learned a few years back. Like, if you can just drop any judgment that you have of others, it just creates a completely different environment. Tough love, 100%. Like, I've seen some of the best things in people change off the back of tough love. Conversations.
Yeah, what do you think it looks like, sounds like?
Questions and conversations that other people are afraid to ask. You taught me this, just asking the question of why. Well, why do you feel that way? Or why is that important to you? Or why do you think that's going to make a difference? Challenging the thought process of other people, I think, is really quite key. Same in business. So, I always ask why. Why do you do it that way? Why is it that that's never changed? Why is it that your workforce feel this way? And the third, I think probably just the ability to create space, whatever space looks like. Space doesn't have to be sitting down with someone and saying, let's chat. It could just be sitting in the car and having a conversation about life. It could just be walking along the beach, and you never know what space somebody needs.
Yeah. I imagine there have been many circumstances where you just haven't wanted to talk in the last few months.
Yeah. And not just me, like, a lot of people in our community, like we've wanted to talk, we haven't wanted to talk. And I think obviously Steve, my other half, I think he kind of tiptoes around me at the minute because he doesn't know what mood I'm going to be in. He doesn't know if I want to talk, he doesn't know if I don't want to talk. So that's a hard thing to judge as well, isn't it? Like, you don't, but I think sometimes when you can just be with somebody, conversations can then flow, and you're not being busy with life. You're not being busy with all things.
I had John Gray on recently, who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and he says that the primary motivation of a man is to fix something. and
when there's something that you can't fix,
exactly. Well, how do I fix this? And then you feel completely out of your depth in terms of, I don't know, and it is tricky. It is tricky. Steve also wants to know how you maintain such high levels of focus for such long periods of time.
That's because I'm a woman.
All right, well, better luck next time, Steve.
No, it's like
50% of my audience.
Yeah, I'm joking. How do I don't know. I think it's probably habit as well. Like, I've taught myself, or I've allowed myself to sit for hours and hours and hours and do work. Like, and I don't think that's a healthy thing. So I would much prefer not to be able to focus for such a long period of time. Because
is it particular things? Is it certain things? Or is it like whatever you put your mind to?
If I put my mind to something, I'm on it. Like, my parents would say the same. I'm very much, I get fixated on things.
Yep.
And I just need to do it, or it just needs to get done, or whatever. But yeah, I'm like a dog with a bone. That's probably the best analogy for me.
Jonathan Darling says, how did you become so awesome?
How did I become so awesome? Just being my authentic self. Just being me.
Why do they call you Legend Laker?
Well, I like to think it's just because it rhymes, but
yeah.
It's just who I am, right?
Well, it's just like when we had Samantha Clinch come in. It's like, if you declare it to the universe and you say that you're a hand model, then you are. And I think we speak about it, Legend Laker, and just that's who you are. That's who you've become.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Abby says, is there anything that you would have done differently?
No.
That was a quick response.
Yeah, I have this firm belief that I don't regret anything.
Yeah.
I would never change any of my experiences. The mistakes that I've made along the way, they've all been lessons. Like, and I know that sounds quite cliche. I know it's, people are saying, you learn from all the things that whatever, like, it is true. And I do believe that I would not be the person that I am today if I wasn't brought up in the same way that I was brought up, if I hadn't experienced life, depression, all of those things. And as I move forward with my life, there'll be other things that come and shape the person that I become. So no, I wouldn't change a thing.
You know my story, my journey with it comes to absent father and struggles in the home over the last sort of 5 years, and if you get to a place where you truly love life and the things you get to do, and I've come to this realization that if you love your life, you can't hate what got you here.
Like, I'm so grateful for knowing what it feels like to be in the darkest of places.
Right.
I am so grateful to have experienced absolute assholes. Because I think when you have the good days, when you have the best people around you, like that, it's even more special. Yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. And I'm kind of a little bit like, come at me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, what's next? What else can I learn? You know, Steph, prime example of that. That is a lesson in itself. And
yeah,
work, business is a lesson in itself. Where I don't know, we always talk about getting to a fork in the road, don't we? You can go left or right. And the longer you sit and decide which way you should go, probably the chances of it being wrong are going to be higher. Actually, you get to the fork and you want to go left, we'll go left.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that I live my life now. You know, it's impulsive. And I just trust that whatever comes at me is meant for me.
That's interesting, because Steve also says, you know, one of his 5 horrible questions, how do you make your business and life decisions? And I think what you just touched on is a degree of intuition, which a lot of this intellect-driven world is a bit fearful of. How do you tap into your intuition and trust it?
Do you know what? I believe I've always had very good intuition. Yep. I don't feel as if I've kind of learned to have intuition, because I also don't think you can really learn it. I think you can probably practice and develop it, but I think you kind of have an innate intuition. So, you know, growing up with people, I've always been able to read people. Obviously, sometimes you get it wrong, but you know, again, I've learned along the way, and I don't know, I just trust my gut, I guess. Is probably the piece.
And then when you do that, I think so, to try and rationalize what I think you're saying, is that sometimes there's something just suggesting do something. So then the next thing is do the thing that you think is your instinct, and then you get a feedback mechanism which says, yeah, that was the right thing to do, or oh, it wasn't, and then we learn how to hone our intuition, right?
Yeah, and I think, you know, I'm not somebody who sits and thinks about every decision, whereas I know other people are. You know, that there's people who put themselves through this cycle of should I, shouldn't I? Maybe what, you know, if I do this, what happens? And if I do that, you know, what's the outcome of that? And I don't give myself the time or the space to sit and think about my actions. That's not to say that I don't regret some of my actions in terms of in that moment, because I think, oh, maybe I should have just done the other thing. But you know, again, I just kind of I go with it. But yeah, I just trust, know, and go.
From what I know about you, and enough, particularly with the life languages stuff, is that you are very global perspective. You're big picture. You work in long time frames, meaning that you get the freedom to take whichever path to that ultimate direction it's going to take you.
Yeah, don't ask me about the detail.
Yeah. Joni?
That's where Joni comes in.
Yes, smart
if you want a list of 100 things that maybe we should consider before we get there, Joni would have that. She probably wouldn't have the final destination. That's what I have. So yeah.
Great teamwork. Look, I could talk to you all afternoon, all evening, but I want to be conscious and respectful of your time. Where can people connect with your organization and find out more about you and what you do in the world?
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best place to get me and Joni. We're not particularly active at the minute, but that's for a number of different reasons. So Bethan Laker or Joni Harding, I'm going to pitch her out there as well. In terms of Instagram, our business is The Leisure Experts on Instagram, also on Facebook. And I guess my alter ego is The Blonde Biker 27 or Bethan Laker on Instagram.
Bethan Laker, you know all about the phrase heartprint. You know what it kind of means, what it embodies. What is your heartprint?
What is my heartprint? Do you know, I don't think I've actually been able to put my heartprint into words yet. But then putting words to a feeling, I wonder if that's actually the right way to go for me. But I guess for me, it's my heartprint is probably all about following the breadcrumbs that come my way, and making the impact wherever that leads me. Whether it's with a business, whether it's with people, whether it is with customers, like whatever it might be, making a difference. But then the ripple effect of that, I think, is, what's that going to lead to? And for me, the sustainability piece is huge. When it comes to people, just in general, like friends, tough love is probably my heartprint. Tough love and accountability.
I love that.
I've learned that from the best, Ryan.
Well, this is it. Once you've experienced that, you understand that it's love. Love, tough love. I think once you understand that it's united by this sense of I care, and this is just the way I show it. Just sometimes it looks and sounds very different person to person.
I'm not as gentle as you. I'm a bit more blunt, but
well, this is it. But we can't all do it the same way I do.
Each to our own, eh?
Exactly. And there's grace and tolerance for the way you do it, and there's grace and acceptance for the way I do it, because we know that in the middle of this conversation, we are talking about something which we care about, and we know that can be left better. Yeah. Bethan Laker, thank you for your time. I'd be honoured if you'd leave us with a final thought from your good self.
Oh, man. Final thought. Do you know what? You always ask this question. I should have known better. I should have come prepared. Final thought. Do you know what? I hate it when people can answer this question just like that.
Yeah.
I think, oh, man. I don't know. I think my final thought would probably be something along the lines of like, take what comes your way. And I don't want to be that annoying person that says always find the positive piece in it, but like always, that there's always got to be something in it for you. Mm-hmm. I would definitely lean into life. Like, I think, and especially the last 4 months has taught me one thing, that, tomorrow is never guaranteed. And there's so many things that I wouldn't want people not to know. Like, if you lean into life, you're going to get a lot of answers. You're going to know what it feels like to do something you're scared of. You're going to know how successful you can be. And I just think we spend so much time worrying about stuff that actually we can't control. And actually our life, there's only so much of it we can control. And if tomorrow's never guaranteed, then why are we sat waiting and wondering?
Lean in, knee to the ground.
Yeah. Get the knee slider down.
Bethan, thank you so much for your heart, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making it to the end of the interview here on YouTube. I hope that our time spent together has left you a little bit better than before you push play. Before you go anywhere, please leave a comment down below, some of your key reflections, your key takeaways. I love hearing from you and what this conversation has inspired in you. Let me know what you're going to do as a result of this conversation. I will be back next Wednesday, where I will share another inspiring guest. To make sure that you don't miss that, please do subscribe, hit the bell, and you will be notified as soon as it goes live. If you're curious to know how I, through Always Better Than Yesterday, can serve you, your team, your organization, please do visit alwaysbetterthanyesterday.com, and it will be my honor and privilege to help you in any way I can. Keep leading, my friends. I've been Ryan Hartley, host of the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast here on YouTube. Always love.